Good morning, dear students in Lisbon. It's so sad that we cannot meet live. I was really planning on coming, but Corona in Belgium prevented that, and you guys were going to be live present in the classroom, and then Corona prevented that also. So we're all together now in the same boat, in the Zoom boat. The system of my course I will explain during the first Zoom session on Monday morning. Part of that is that I give you some PowerPoint presentations with clips. There are 7, and the first one is this one, which is an introduction to the course. I hope this system will work. So first of all, negotiation is a very important part of life, of professional life and of private life, because you will see negotiations going on everywhere and every time. You may have negotiated with yourself even this morning on whether to get up right now or snooze further for 10 minutes. You have constant negotiations with your family and friends, in business, in politics, at university. In law, obviously, as lawyers, we have 2 aspects of negotiation, which is when there's a dispute, a conflict, we try to do dispute or conflict resolution. And obviously, lawyers often think of that resolution in terms of litigation, yet negotiation, mediation, arbitration, maybe other better alternatives. They have been framed as alternative dispute resolution. Following Professor Carrie Menkel-Meadow, I prefer the term appropriate dispute resolution. You look at the situation, the conflict, the dispute, what kind of conflict management system would be the most appropriate, the most adequate to solve or to try to find a solution, and then we opt this one. Alon Fuller wrote an article on process pluralism and being emphasizing the importance of looking at each conflict and find a process that best fits that situation to find an equitable and fair solution. So pluralism, not only litigation, not only negotiation or mediation, many aspects, and that can also be a continuum where you start with negotiation, it doesn't work, you go to mediation, it doesn't work, and then often I would suggest arbitration rather than litigation. We'll come back to that. Although I'm an attorney, practicing attorney at the Bar of Brussels, I'm not such a big fan of litigation, especially not in private conflicts. I'm a private client attorney working for wealthy families and family businesses, and I feel that almost always it's not in the interest of either one of the parties to litigate. It's often in the interest of the lawyers, the attorneys, to litigate, but not in the interest of the client. And the client, obviously, is the interest that should be predominant. So within all organizations, in all levels of society, you will negotiate. It's quite evident because negotiation is part of life as it is part of communication. And we human beings, in both our professional and private life, are constantly dealing with other human beings. And the way to deal with each other is communicate. And so negotiation is a modus of communication. I hoped this thing would go to the next slide. So where negotiations are pervasive, lawyers in their jobs must negotiate all the time with their colleagues, with clients, and in all areas of practice and in all kinds of businesses. This is a key skill for lawyers, quite obviously. And although we lawyers obviously have a very well-developed ego, and lots of lawyers feel that by the mere fact they are a lawyer, they will be good negotiators, you could ask yourself the question, do lawyers really negotiate well? And it's interesting to refer to an article that Professor Mnuchin has brought to our attention of economic professor of Princeton, wrote an article in '93, and the article had as a title, Lawyers, Agents of the Devil. And we call that the Ashenfelter Challenge. Is it true what Ashenfelter says, that lawyers are agents of the devil in the sense that they destroy value, or could we kind of frame in a more positive way and put against that negative claim a more positive approach, arguing that lawyers, if they do it right and if they fulfill their profession in an ethical way, that they can create value? Maybe let's first check out what the Ashenfelter Challenge exactly is. So Ashenfelter had data, thousands of data in New Jersey on arbitration procedures. In New Jersey, government officials like firemen or police or other government functions are not allowed to go on strike. When there are discussions, they can take the issue to arbitration, where there will be the trade union, for instance, on the one side, and a municipality or a government department on the other side. And so Ashenfelter looked at many cases. And first, he looked at the cases where one of the parties was represented by a lawyer and the other side was not represented. What do you think he found? Indeed, he found that those who took a lawyer did better. And to some extent, that's not such a big surprise. Otherwise, you might start wondering whether we should not close the business here. So that's fine. So in that sense, lawyers created value, you could say. Then he looked at two batches of cases where on the one side, both parties had no lawyer. And on the other side, both parties had a lawyer. Guess what he found out? Indeed, the results were about the same. And then he added, obviously, the results, if they are about the same on the brute outcome, they are not on the net outcome, since in the cases where you don't have lawyers, you don't have the transaction costs, you don't have to pay the lawyer fees, and those can be rather substantial. So in a way, those who did not take a lawyer were better off and had a better result. And then the question is, when you have these data, what would you do if you were a trade union representative and you have a case coming up to arbitration? Would you take a lawyer or would you not take a lawyer? If you decide I don't take a lawyer, you could say, well, I will be better off, because in the situation where the other side doesn't take a lawyer, the net result is better. That's true, yet you don't know what the other side will do. And so the other side, when they have these data too, they make the same reasoning, and you see immediately what happens. It's a prisoner's dilemma. And so you don't want to be the sucker who is the party without a lawyer, because we know if one has a lawyer and one has not a lawyer, then the lawyer side does better. So what happens? Both sides decide we take a lawyer, and the net result worsens. So Ashenfelter says lawyers destroy value. They are agents of the devil. Interesting, and I think we should take this serious. There's a lot of sayings about a negative perception about lawyers and the reputation of lawyers, and to some extent there's some truth in it. Lawyers are seen as bloodsuckers, making money on the misery of people. I think there's a lot of unethical behavior in the lawyer profession, in any country, also in my country, in Belgium. And I think there's a huge need for a more ethical, professional approach. Lawyer should be an honorable function, should be a job that we can carry out with pride. And often we have to say that a lot of colleagues are only driven by money and profit, and that's not what our business is about. Obviously, it's okay to make money, yet that should not be predominant, and the client's interest and finding a good solution should be the ambition over our own profits. One positive thing, though, in I think it was Henry VIII of Shakespeare, the king at some point says, first thing we'll do, let's kill all the lawyers. And that has been interpreted also as, you see, even then they were against the lawyers, lawyers as blood suckers. Yet that's not true. In that situation, where the king is a despot and as a tyrant and wants to decide and puts himself above the law, then the first thing you should do is kill the lawyers, because the lawyers there are seen as defenders, protectors of the rule of law, of the rights of defense. And in a way, that's obviously one of the beauties of our profession, that we try to defend that anyone who has a problem should be represented, should have a clear explanation on what are the rules, what are the possibilities, and should be defended in a fair and objective way. So in that sense, obviously lawyers have played and still continue to play a huge role in protecting human rights all over the globe.